Welcome back to Stationeers. Now, this is the day after for you, but for me, it's not quite the same. So I don't have any opportunity to view the comments on the last video yet. So bear in mind, if you had any comments on the last video, it'll be probably the next episode before you actually see any changes from that. But from the start of this episode, we're going to be doing some changes. I think we're going to be trying to minimize this program a little bit. There's some ways that we can actually do that. And then we can also deal with the vertical sort of tracking that we've got set up with this satellite tracking thing here. Off it is going, it's tracking as it is. And maybe we can speed it up as well. So there's a few things I want to actually deal with. First of all, let me just grab my tablet. And we can take a look at something. If we have a look here, you'll see there's a signal ID. And the signal ID seems to be related to the individual sort of thing down here. Whoops. And let's head over here. Signal ID was 310. And this has no bearing on this number. It would be really nice. So it says, like, where are we? Let's turn off the... So 3589 and 2400. And I have no such signal ID in here. Okay, what I'm assuming signal ID is, and it would be nice to know for sure, but is that particular trading ship that it's tracking. So we want to basically detect whether the signal ID is 0 or not, because if it's 0, it's lost signal. It can't find anything. So we may well need to change the behavior depending on whether the signal ID is 0. So let's just make sure we actually pull that in as well. And that would be cool just to know. So alias our signal ID is R4, and we may not use it, but we can at least bring it in. So our signal ID, and then we want to bring in the D satellite signal ID. There we go. So that is part of the program, and that can be exported. There's no problems with it. We're not really doing anything with it, so you wouldn't expect that to be a problem. Right now, and I'll probably leave this out because we may need it quite a few times. Right now, it's seeking signal ID 310, and you'll see it's sort of around 354, and it's going backwards. That's about the highest it can actually get to with the horizontal stuff. So first of all, let's see if we can shorten this program a little bit. In here, you'll see we've got two sections, increase and decrease. And the real thing that's actually going on here is that we're either adding or subtracting something. And the thing is, you can add and subtract something just by changing the number. If you add -1, you're doing the same thing as subtracting 1. So we can leave the statement there to be the same thing, but just maybe have some sort of internal register up here, like R direction. Okay, and our direction, let's just call it R5. And we're just going to set it right at the beginning, so it starts out as positive. It's arbitrary. You can set it to whatever you like. So move is move is move what's the ways of the syntax? Is it move? I could do with it'd be nice if those tooltip sort of things whenever you start typing statements. IntelliSense if you're Visual Studio used to that kind of thing. So yeah, so we're just going to move into our direction. Direction, and then just a number. So we're just going to choose 1 for argument's sake to get us started. And that will probably be moving clockwise now. So in here, we're going to go through the loop. And let's just move that over this side, just to where I prefer it. And then we're going to basically need to choose to do something. So instead of adding our horizontal 1 here, we're going to choose our direction. Okay. And then if it's greater than 359, this just says decrease. But what we actually, well, we don't really want to do that. All we really want to do is, if it's going greater than 359, or in fact, actually, we're going to do branch shift less than. If it's less than 360, let's just put that the other way around, then we're going to skip. So we can do a relative skip. So branch relative less than and 2, okay? Helps if I actually put the 2 in. If we didn't skip, we're going to keep going. So that's absolutely fine. We can just go back to the start. And we're going to just rename this. Let's just name this, I don't know, horizontal H-seek. Something like that. Yeah, that seems right. And if we didn't skip, we're just going to reverse it. So we're just going to move our direction is -1 now. And whatever we do from that point onwards, we're going to need the next line to basically go and reassess things. So we're going to jump back to HSeek. So with that done, what else are we actually doing here? What did I accidentally erase? The satellite horizontal, yeah, that's pulling in. I clearly have removed something. So we're going to be pulling in, just like we've done down here. We're going to, yeah, there we go. Is it S? Yeah, so our horizontal would have been there. Okay, so we're going to set the, whatever we do here, we're going to set this up so that we actually start the thing moving. So, whatever we do there, we add it, we see if it's hit 360, if so, we jump it, start going it backwards, we store it onto the satellite, it starts to move, and then we jump back up here. So this is going to keep looping around, and indeed we can do something like that sleep 1. Not that we may need sleep 1, we'll be able to do this later. And you can also change the sort of step size up here just by changing this and this to a value. What you can also do actually, instead of doing this move direction 1, you're going to be a bit sneakier than that. You can change it to multiply. So if you do this, we can do multiply. Okay, multiply our direction by -1. Now what that's going to do, in fact, it's going to need another instruction there. Yeah, we need 2 instructions. That's right, 2 variables. So multiply our direction itself by -1, and that's going to take the opportunity to reverse things. So if you put 5 here, it's going to change between +5 and -5. So nice and easy. That you don't have to set it in multiple places. You could also have this, instead of being a register, you could have this as a define up here. So, but I want to be able, in fact, no, maybe not. Yeah, I'm not sure if you can change a define later. So, yeah, if this isn't a constant, it's going to keep changing. So let's just leave it as a register, and that should do the job. And then what else do we need down here? Well, load the signal strength again. So that's reassessing it. And then we're doing other stuff. Let me just check, see if I can clean up the rest of this program first. Now, I've done some editing in the program, and I want to show you a new way, perhaps, of sorting things out. We want to basically read multiple values at the moment. And right now, I'm normally using the device base of the connector, the IC housing. And that's okay to a point, and you'll see this thing is actually, seeking fine. It's going to a certain value and it's staying there. And I'm emphasizing this because I've just increased this to the direction to 10 so that it's got a bigger swing. So it's easy for you to see the behavior. However, even so, that's not a great display always. However, we can create a few sort of displays this way. So if we create some of these, we may be able to write to them directly. So let's just add one of these there. And one of them there, and let's say one of them there. Okay, so we've got 3 of them. And let's just connect everything together. Let's just drop you for a second. Good. And sorry about the Z fighting. There's nothing I can do about that, really. That's just a bug in the game. And let's just connect these up. Because we have plenty of pins with this thing, and it's worthwhile us getting all of these connected. And then you can see exactly what the behavior is going on rather than just using one value like that, which can be a little bit odd. So in here, we're just going to need to rename them, and let's name them something useful. So what's the useful thing? So let's just say current signal strength. Okay. Current signal strength and temp signal strength. This is the thing that we're reading. Well, let's just actually put it this, let's call it start loop signal strength. So before we start rotating this thing, this is what the signal strength was. This is what it currently is at the point at which we're actually assessing it. And then we'll have a third display, maybe signal ID or something like that. That might be useful. So signal ID. And let's just close that out. Let's put it in the last slot because we're probably going to need that at some point. And let's get that sorted. So we're just going to connect those up. Remember, I only really have the satellite connected to this thing, so we have a bit more luxury as about what we can actually do. So I'm going to say start loop signal strength. I'm going to load that into D2, I think. Hang on. I actually clicked on it too much. Start loop signal strength. This is going to be current signal strength, start loop, and then the next one is going to be signal ID. All right. And I forget exactly what you need to use on these, so let's just take a look with our computer. It is going to be the setting, I would imagine. Yep, so that's something we'll give it a try. Turn these on. They should probably come to 0 by default. Yep, and I do like these displays. It's been a while since I used them. When I last used them, they went off the end of the model and just floated in midair, the actual numbers. So we're going to just sort that one out a little bit. And you can see how the behavior. Don't worry about the stuff down here. We'll actually come back onto that in a second. So we'll just do D. So current. So current display. Yeah. D1. Alias D temp. Display D2 and alias signal ID D signal ID D3. Is that the same way I've got this set up? I've already forgotten the current. Yep, start loop. It shouldn't call it temp in there. It should be start loop. Start loop. Loop display. And what we're really going to do is set those as soon as I actually know them. So I'm going to set this one right here to be whatever it is at the start of the loop. So here we're reading in the signal ID and the temp strength. So we're going to set them immediately. So set the start loop display to the setting to the R temp strength. And we'll probably rename that register. And then we're going to set the D signal ID to R signal ID. And we need to set that the setting. I always forget it needs to go there. And let's start this up and let's see whether that actually works. So export. Yep. So you can see that's the current signal ID it's going at. This is its start loop signal strength. And then what I actually also want to actually connect there is if we just grab this, because we're going to be doing pretty much the same thing, just further down. So whenever we've moved this, where are we telling it to move? So here we're telling it to move the horizontal. Here we want to actually probably sort of go out to the current display. And we're going to set it to the R signal strength. Okay, so what that should allow us to do is to see what it's actually doing, because we're about to sleep. In fact, I need to just move this a little bit, because we need to do it whenever we actually bring the current signal strength in. So there we go. Now let's just see how this actually works. So export. And 0.65. So you can see at this point it's finding the 0.6, 66, 69, etc. But that start loop signal strength is not changing. So we're not looping clearly. I'm not hitting that because it's hitting HSeek and I don't have anything to jump out of this HSeek. So it's just going and trying to find something and never really going on down here. So yes, we need to sort that one out. So branch relative, set the DB setting. I don't need to set that anymore because we've already got a display now. And instead of jumping HSeek, we need to basically choose to jump over this based on some kind of criteria. And we've got this humming quite nicely now. I've got this, you'll see it cycles backwards and forwards, and it goes back up to max, and it goes down a little bit. And let's just see whether it actually hums if I just turn off the program, and if we just sort of adjust this, just do the usual thing of, like, if you've ever seen the Boston Robotics, Boston Dynamics dogs, when people kick them and see if they actually stand back upright again. Well, let's see if this actually works. So it's going to try and seek in one direction, and you'll see it tries another direction, realize it's headed in the right direction, I hope. Are you going to work? Oh, hang on, that's going to different signal IDs. That's a problem, because that's not going to work too well. Are you going to stay on a signal ID? Yeah, there you go. There you go. And are you going to find maybe the best step size isn't big enough? It's homed onto 317. Let me just adjust this again, and let's see if we can get back roughly onto that really high. Hold on. Let's adjust that. Turn you back on. I haven't put anything to keep it to one signal ID for the moment. So are you going to then track? So 0.8, 0.81, 8.4, still tracking 320, 8.8, 8.9, and it's heading up towards its maximum. And once it hits its maximum, it's then going to reverse direction and it's going to cycle back and forth. So 0.99 is good. That is pretty much just the maximum we can go. What you'll see is a behavior in a second where, or it may not do, it may actually decide to just lock there. But you'll see it cycling back and forth a little bit because it's still homing. Now, the other way you can actually do, I've added a line down here, I'll come on to in a second, is to reduce the size of that step. There's two, we can multiply it when we're happy about it. We can multiply it by 0.5, so its step size goes smaller. So it gets smaller and smaller in variation. But, you know, let's get on to the program in general for horizontal seek anyway. So we add that whatever the step size is. These 4 lines are just limits. Ignore them otherwise. It just protects you from going under 0 or over 360. Otherwise, ignore them. But then we're going to set that to the, we've added one, so we're going to set it to the satellite, so it's going to start rotating and sleep for a second. After that point, we're going to then go through here, so load in the signal strength. Then we're going to set our display. We can ignore that line, so we're loading in the signal strength, and then comparing the signal strength to the temp strength that we set right at the start of the loop up here. Okay, so if it's positive, where are we? Here we are. If it's positive, if it's greater than, we know we're heading in the right direction, so we can skip over onto this line. If it's not, we're going to go through to the next line. So we're going to fall through and say reverse direction. And then it's going to go through itself, and it's going to go reassess itself when it goes through again. And then here we're going to basically say, because we know at this point, if we've gone through this, we are basically saying if we subtract this, then we are going to jump out of this loop, because we're finding the difference here. If we just doubly make sure, do I actually want to make sure of that? Do I want to be really, really sure on this? Because if we go through the signal strength and temp strength, if it's gone through this and fallen through, what we may have to do is add a line in here. So I want to maybe do this to 4. Saying jump H seek or something like that. Maybe that will actually work better, because then it will go past all this stuff and go onto here. So then we're seeing what the difference is between the two, because we know at this point, if we jump past that point, if the signal strength is going to be greater than this, we're always going to get a positive number. Is the positive number less than 0.1, i.e. we're really close in the signal strength? If so, jump to V seek. Okay, and otherwise go around. But I didn't have that line in there. It was still working. So I'm just going to try it and see if this actually still does work. It's gone 87, 88, 87, 98, and 7. Okay, that is actually, well, it's just cycling at that point. So yeah, I may adjust this a little bit. Let's just actually take that back out for a second and make sure I just change this back here. And what's the behavior now? So 9.7. And that's static. Yeah, you see it does go cycles backwards and forwards, but it still homes towards maximum. Good. So I've got something like that. I also want to make sure that I'm tracking one signal ID. So at the very start of this whole loop, I'm just going to read in that, well, read in the signal ID right here, but what I want to know is if it's changed. If something I've done has changed, I'm going to jump back to loop. So if signal ID is not the same as this, then we need to change it. So I'm going to compare it to the device. Now, can we actually do that without loading it into a register? Probably not. If we just want a BEQ, and it has to be a register. So here it is at the start, and then we just need to load it in at somewhere. So we're going to load it in after the sleep, right here, because it's now rotated. That's the time we've allowed for the satellite dish to rotate. So we're then going to pull into R11. These are just temporary. I've not named them, that's why. We're just going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to, where is it now? Not store. Whoops. Load into R11. The D satellite signal ID. Okay. And if BEQ, so if R11, sorry, it's BNEQ, BNE maybe? Is that legal? Let's have a look. BNE, branch not equal. Seems right, but let's get to the right thing. Branch line C if A is not equal to B. So if R11 is not equal to D, no, not D, R signal ID, then we're going to go straight back to loop. We're going to start again. So if this ever changes, yeah, we're not going to try and track that new thing. We want this whole thing to actually stay where it is. So that is actually working, and it's unfortunately with this particular signal, it doesn't need any vertical sort of seeking going on. However, I guess at some point it's going to be like 0.6 or something. That's going to be its maximum. So in order to do this for vertical seek as well, we're going to need to do exactly the same thing as we've done here, but for vertical seeking. And because those limits are different, we can't just collapse it into, I don't think we can collapse it anyway, into this loop. You know, I suppose you could try, but yeah, it depends when you want it to seek, what the behavior you want is. Because if it's hit its maximum, we've decided it's hit its maximum. And at this point, we're going to go and try and find the maximum as far as the vertical direction is concerned. And then once that's hit its maximum, then maybe it'll try horizontal seek again. So we're just looping backwards and forwards between these two different things. And we may need some kind of reset button saying, hey, no, that's not right. Just go and find something else. However, for the moment, that's going to be fine. I'm not sure if the traders or the trading ships are any different from each other. If they're not, then it doesn't matter. We only need to determine if there is a signal or not a signal. If there's not a signal, then you can go through the whole sweeping thing until you can find a signal. But otherwise, if we click on this, seems the contact has moved on. It's gone. Oh dear. So that's fine. But you should see now this should start rising because it should home on the new contact. So there it comes. And can you actually get to a contactable area? Let's see if it actually finds it. Oh, there's a second one. Has it homed up? Yeah, that's the problem. It's now gone to a different signal ID and it started again. Nothing I can do about that, I don't think. So are you rotating, trying to find it? You are rotating, and you've homed, and it looks like you've homed onto its maximum. Let's have a look. Whoops. Oh, hang on, we've homed onto the other signal's maximum. Yeah, it didn't actually take over. That's fine, it's still locked onto this one. But that's not high enough for me to click that contact button yet. So we've actually got one that is useful for me to go and write the vseek side of things. Okay, I think I've got this thing to the point that it's stable until it changes signal. So let's just go through this briefly. What's actually happening? You'll see this is actually homing here, or trying to home in on a signal. And it is going to keep trying in one direction then the other to try and find a closer result than what it could do originally. You see it's homing back towards 96 here, 95, 96, 92, 91. It depends on whether it's seeking vertically or horizontally. And the behavior of this is sort of controlled by three values now. This value up here, R direction, and you can change that step size. That's how much in angles it's going to try and find a closer result. Also, in each of the horizontal and vertical seek sections, there is this value down here, 0.03 and 0.03. If we ever get to a difference between the current signal value and what it was at the start of the loop, less than that value, it's going to jump to the other section. It's going to go backwards and forwards. Okay, so we could set that to be 0.01, for instance. So unless that difference is really small, it's not going to be jumping. It's going to be keeping on into the same area. So if we just change that behavior, you'll see probably this will potentially change a little bit. You'll see that's the difference now. It's not the signal ID anymore. I need to rename that. It's just the difference between these two whenever it assesses it. So well, as soon as it goes to 0.01 or below, it's going to jump in value. So you see that's now homed onto 0.95, 0.96. Anything like that is fine. Now what happens is when the signal drops out, i.e. that ship up there somewhere, wherever it is, disappears, it's going to just, well, freak out a little bit. It can't find one, so it'll start stepping across and looking just for a next signal. It's just going to work its way around and then stop, get to the limits, and then go back again. I think that's behavior. By all means, look at the program in the paste bin in the description below. But if you have a look over here, 0.96, so if we just pop over here, by the way, this all uses a lot of power. I need more power. So if I just press this, oh, it's 96. Ah, the contact's moved on. Okay, so it should detect that one and start homing on this one. Let's see if it actually works. So 63, 65. Yeah, hopefully it's got this one. Looks like it's finding it. It's certainly heading that way. 78, 80. Okay, so yes, the state of my batteries are not very good. I ran completely out, so I shut down my furnace building, I shut down my atmospherics building, because this thing uses 200 watts, the computers use 100 watts each, and I have that power switch to control it all, but because I've been leaving it on for so long, I actually have more of an issue. Are you got to the right level? It's still trying to go backwards and forwards, trying to find the right direction, so it's getting closer. Let's see if it actually gets enough. 91. We need above 95 for that to work. You'll see it doesn't always get to 95, etc. So that is just playing with the values a little bit, I think. So that's going to need a little bit of customization. But it generally gets to a certain point at which the combination of the two axes, you'll see it's just seeking backwards and forwards, trying to find the right direction. And it's may have too large a step size at that point. We may need a smaller step size and a smaller difference. So again, I'll let you guys play with this. What I'm probably going to do is up here, I'm just going to define what's the sort of max difference. Max diff 0.01, let's say. And then down here, we'll just put max diff in here. Max diff. And max diff, and hopefully that will actually work. Let's wait for that to confirm and export, and now you'll see it's 0.01. So if it's above 0.01, that won't actually trigger, and this hopefully should get closer. There we go. 0.95, 96. Let's see if we get to the computer, whether I can contact one of these ships. 97. There we go. Trade requesting safe landing. Please ensure landing space is clear and connected. A vending machine is also required. Oh dear, I need to actually turn turn you on. There you go. The lights are on. So let's look at that. Contact. Do you like me contact? Vending machine. Is the vending machine on? It should be. But maybe it isn't. Vending machine's on. Okay. Contact. No. Vending machine is required. Landing space is clear and connected. Maybe it has to be a vending machine on the same network. Ooh, let's see if that's the case. Let's just grab you for a second, and we're going to put that on the network here. I want to say, where do I actually want this? We want it, I guess, behind me somewhat. So let's just turn it that way. And get this hooked in. Yeah, I've got room to get on all sides if I need to. So I just need to connect this with a little bit of cable. Let's drop you over here. And let's connect you in. So let's make sure you're on the same network. So 1, 2. There we go. And you can come back, turn off. And are you now stable enough? So this, actually, that value change seems to have been gone all right. Contact, no. Why can't I contact it? Come on. Honestly, landing space is clear and it is connected. All of that light isn't on for some reason. I don't know why, but the lights are on and we certainly have power to this thing. So don't know. Does anyone know? Am I missing something? Something really obvious? And that signal's gone. So I've got another signal here. Let's see if it homes in on... Not sure which one of these it's actually going to try and home in on. 92... It is homing both vertically and horizontally. If it homes like that, if you see it move in two different directions, it hasn't, well, it can't really get very close, or it's hit its limit and it's triggering the other loop. So your value then is maybe too high, but even so, yeah, it's going to be a bit problematic. There it goes. Can you contact? No. So, oh, hang on. Wait a second. Did I turn this on? Sometimes can I contact you now? Yes. Okay, so I press contact, and oh, look at this. Look at that. So we've got a trading ship, and we can trade with it by pressing your interact key here. I might explain why I'm not going to show this on camera just because it's a different account than my normal one. But if you press this, you will be able to trade with this thing. You do need to print out a credit card, mind you, if you do that. And you can sell some of the stuff that's in your vending machine to it. And then you can then obviously, well, buy stuff from it as well. So yeah, let me have a look. Okay, our traders left and they purchased, well, basically one of my hardsuit backpacks, and I purchased this turbine generator. So that is good. The turbine generator cost about $54. The hardsuit backpacks, of which I have another one for sale whenever I do another contact, that sold for like $145. This sells for you can buy it for 54 or so, close enough to those values. And that means in my uniform, I've got a credit card with $80 left on it. So that is there. And so you can see I haven't faked this by not clicking on the trading interface. That credit card comes out with $0 when you first actually print this thing. So that is up and running. And we now have a way to purchase stuff. So that's working. And we have a turbine generator, which is pretty huge. Haven't really explored the turbine generator too much, but it's perhaps something to do a little bit later. All of the system now works and homes in. I've got it off at the moment because it just drained the entire power of my base. And you can see it's now daytime, so I can turn it back on. And just to briefly summarize the program. It's going to be in the description below, so you're more than welcome to it. And there's going to be some optimizations, probably halving it in size as well if we make some other changes. But for now, I'm happy with it. Very top, we've got two values you can play with now. Here, our direction, that's the minimum direction in angles, minimum direction in angle in degrees that it will try. It's going to shift 2 degrees and reassess things. And then this maximum difference value, if it comes in below that, then it's going to jump to the other axis. So if the difference between when it first assesses the signal strength and after it moves is bigger than that, then it's going to keep on moving. But if it's smaller, it's on target, so it doesn't need to move anymore. And by playing with these two values, we'll determine how well this thing actually homes in on a signal. You can play with them a little bit for yourself. So summarizing, we're loading a lot of initial values. Don't worry about that. Then we're jumping to VSeek. Now, VSeek is important at the start because there's 2 axes here, and vertical needs to go first because if it's pointing up and then tries to rotate, nothing much changes. It's going to rotate all the way around a horizontal. It's never going to find a signal. So we're going to try and vertical seek first. So down we go to vertical seek. It's going to go all the way through. Check it's not off the edge. It's not off the maximum minimum. It's going to come down here until a point at which it hits this stuff. So we're going to basically take away the signal strength, the temper strength away from the signal strength. Then we're going to do absolute. So basically change it if it's a negative into a positive. And then we're going to say if, and then load it onto this display. You can just leave that out if you don't want it. And then we're going to say if this value is less than the difference, then jump to horizontal. Otherwise, carry on. Then if it carries on, it's going to say, is it greater than the temp strength, which means we're heading in the right direction, in which case, keep going. It's just going to loop back to the start. Otherwise, change direction and then loop back to the start, so this whole thing will start again. So it's going to keep on going around and around and around. In fact, no, hang on, that's JH seek. Is that right? Or is that supposed to be JV seek? I'm feeling that should be VSeek. It may not matter anyway because it's going to be close enough, but let's just export this and see if I just turn these on. Are you going to be something reasonable? So there we go. It's going to 97, 99, and the value is now pretty much high. It's going to keep on trying those 2 degrees and getting things a little bit different, but you see it's homed in on 99. At this point, it's, you know, it's exactly on target where we want it. And the same thing is true in the HSeek block. It's doing exactly the same thing. The only difference up here is the limits are different, and we're changing the different axis. We're rotating horizontal instead of vertical. That's why I said you can probably half the size of this code just by not having 2 separate blocks and then just changing the axis based on some kind of switch between the 2 axes. and everything else is pretty much assessed the same thing. I've left it alone for now. If there's really a demand for that kind of thing, I guess we can come back, but it actually is working for me, and I'm happy with it, so that will be okay. I will put that online. Let me just copy that so I just don't forget, that you can have a look at it for yourself, so maybe you can improve on it. Either way, this currently is going to keep on fluctuating because it's going to keep on trying those 2 degrees. Some improvements, if you want to make them yourself, challenge for you guys, is to lower this R direction, and you're going to maybe have to keep track of 2 different values here if you do this. That's just a hint. If you go through this loop and we've assessed it down here somewhere, saying, hang on, we're close, let's try a smaller value. So if we are down here somewhere, so if this is less than the maximum difference, maybe you want to have 2 values there. If it's less than a certain amount, then halve the value, multiply it by 0.5, something like that. Otherwise, keep it the same value. But then you have to reset it whenever you have this problem. Because you got to have 2 different directions. Because if you set one of these to half, so it goes to 1, if you're using the same variable and it jumps into horizontal, it'll now be doing horizontal 1, which is not what you want. Only you want it in vertical. So you might have a V direction and an RH direction kind of variable. That's an exercise for you if you want the challenge. And what will happen is if you get that right, it will lock in and then it will stay static, because if you keep on multiplying by 0.5, it's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller until that satellite will stop moving in both directions. Until, of course, your difference jumps up again, at which point you have to reset the value back up to 2. That's an exercise for you. By all means, you know, by all means improve on my code, and there's plenty of people who can improve on my code who comment on the channel. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed this one. That's entirely automatic trading ship tracking in 2 axes using a satellite dish. I'm pretty happy with it. Got some trading done, and we can just shut it down for now because it's a power hog. It uses a huge amount of power, and I don't need that on all the time. So next episode I'm going to add some more solar power, I think, and then deal with some, well, not necessarily low balancing, but just sort of some nice power cable routing so we don't have to keep using this high power cable when we don't need to. Later on we'll need that further throughout the base because this thin cable can only deal with so much before it gets overloaded. So 10 or 11 solar panels, 10 if it's this sort of simple solar tracking is safe, so is 11 if it was the perfect solar tracking, which we may come on to next episode. I think I've got that script still in my previous season 2, so I may well load that and see if there's any changes to be made. Anyway, if we do the better version of this, it'll rotate both axes, not just this vertical one but also the horizontal one, and it'll keep it pointing at the sun, and these will come up to about 500 watts each. And that means in turn that at 500 watts times 10, this is obviously 1,000 watts, and this cable can't really take any more than 5,000 watts. So if you've got this 1-axis tracking, 11 of these solar panels is going to be fine with that cable. 10 is going to be more safe if you go for the full thing. You see that efficiency is 82%. We're going to get that well above like 95, I think, by doing it properly. But that's something we can get onto next episode. For this episode, we've done arguably a more well, it's a different sort of tracking. It's basically trial and error, and it's trial and error by step because we don't really have the information that we have with the solar panels. The solar panels, the solar sensors, we will get 2 different values. Depending on which way direction we face them into, we'll get a solar angle in one direction and a solar angle in the other direction, and we can use those to transform the horizontal and vertical axes. So that is something to think about. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Give it a thumbs up if you have, subscribe if you're on the channel, and of course you click on the bell if you want notifications of new episodes like these every day, at least as long as I'm able to keep that up, and we'll see how far we get. Otherwise, as always, this has been me in Stationeers, and we'll see you next time. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and there's the sunset.